Let's freak out about how the year is half over. Let's do that. Hi, Alicia here. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, this is the place where we talk about books. Today I am really excited to do the mid-year book freakout tag. I have seen this tag flying around BookTube in the month of June. I see it flying around every year. I believe this tag was created back in 2016 maybe by Earl Grey Books. I will link the original video below as well as all of the prompts. This is a really fun tag where you just get to reflect upon what you have read over the past 6 months and what you plan to do for the next 6 months. It's just like it's exactly what it says. It's a mid-year check-in. I mean, I don't really plan to freak out about anything, but whatever. So let's just get into those questions and let's talk about some books. The best book you have read so far in 2020. The best and most powerful book I have read so far in 2020 is Medicine Walk by Richard Wagamese. Medicine Walk is following a 16-year-old boy named Frank Starlight, and he has spent his life being raised by a man who is only ever really called Old Man. Old Man is not Frank's father. Frank has a very complicated relationship with his father. His father is an alcoholic and has never really been able to take care of Frank. So Frank's father has come in and out of his life at like different moments from his birth to him being 16, but has never really been the father figure that he wanted to be or that Frank needed him to be. His father's name is Eldon. And so this book basically starts when Eldon comes to 16-year-old Frank and wants him to take him from the town that they are in to a destination where Eldon plans to die. Like Eldon, he has like an end-stage alcoholic. He is dying, and so he is basically asked his son to take him on this journey from which he will not return. So Frank is kind of forced to grow up immediately throughout this journey, and he learns a lot about his father, why his father is the way that he is, and also reflecting on, you know, his own life and where he comes from. This is a profoundly powerful story of father and son. It tells a lot about family dynamics from an Indigenous perspective. I loved this. It is heartbreaking, but it is such powerful storytelling, and I can't recommend Medicine Walk enough. I am just planning on now reading everything written by Richard Wagamese. I have Indian Horse really high up on my TBR as well. This so far has been the best book I have read in 2020. What is the best sequel you have read so far in 2020? So I did a little audit of all of the books that I read in 2020, and I only read one sequel. So I only have one answer for this, but good news is that it was a good one. I read Hidden Bodies by Caroline Kepnes. This is the sequel to You by Caroline Kepnes, where we follow Jo immediately after the events of book one. So I can't really go too much into what Hidden Bodies is about because it could give spoilers to the first one. If you haven't read You is a first person, or I guess it's second person, because it's in Jo's head, but he's talking to you. He's talking about you. Anyways, I think it's first person. I don't know. Don't ask me. But it is about Jo Goldberg, who's a piece of shit stalker murderer. And you are in his head, you're thinking his thoughts, and you're just following him as he does his thing. And I don't understand why people like Jo. Like, I've heard there is a lot of fandoms out there that are pro Jo, but I just kind of read it like I assume a lot of people do for just like the car crash aspect of it, because Jo is a piece. So Hidden Bodies, more about Jo. I have heard a lot of things like this book, they didn't like it. A lot of people didn't like the sequel as much as the original, but I enjoyed it. I read this really fast, and I thought it was a good, addition to the Joe Goldberg You series. New releases I haven't read yet, but want to. I have two books that I have bought recently that were both released in 2020 that I really want to read and are really high on my TBR. One of them is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. I bought it immediately because I needed to have it, and then it has been sitting on my shelf ever since. Story of my life. But I want to get to this soon. He writes very tropey, campy, fun horror. I'm expecting no different from this book. This follows a group of women in a small town in South Carolina. I could be making that up. Charleston. They're from Charleston. And they have a book club. The book club is the center of their friendship. It is the center of their, kind of live in their community. And then a man moves to town who causes issues, and they suspect he's a vampire. So it is book club versus the vamp. Also, another book I'm really excited about is Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. This is a YA contemporary story. It is an own voices story, and it follows a black queer trans boy in high school. I think he has just gone to a new school for a fresh start, but then he starts to be attacked online by some kids in their class who are threatening to out him and showing photos of him pre-transitioned and using his dead name. So it's him kind of having to deal with this very real discrimination in high school when he's just trying to get by, leading a life that already poses its own challenges outside of his control. So I love diverse representation in YA contemporary books. When I was a teen, nothing like this was out there. So I am so excited to read this. I am so excited to read just like the diversity that is becoming more and more prevalent in YA books. I think it's really important to show diverse perspectives to young readers and young audiences, and I am so excited to read Felix Ever After. Most anticipated release. I feel like I just said in a previous video that the three books that I am very excited about coming out are The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, comes out in July. The Cipher by Kathy Koja, this is a re-release that comes out in September. And Earthlings by Sayaka Murata, which comes out in October. Biggest disappointment. So I have had no greater disappointment in 2020 than The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Starling. When I picked this book up, it seemed like 100% something that I was going to love. It is an off-world science fiction horror about a woman that goes caving on a planet in space. So it is a space cave that she is caving through. There's even like a map at the beginning of the book that shows the cave system, so you can you're supposed to be able to follow along. I hated this book. It was boring. It was way too long. I felt like the descriptions, you had no idea. It was really hard to visualize what was happening. I feel like without the map, like if I was listening to this book on audio, I would have no idea, no ability to picture what I was seeing. I thought the character development was terrible. There was only 2 characters in this book, so I felt like they should have been able to develop them better, but it was not good. It ended badly. I am just so disappointed. The disappointed is what it is. I went into this expecting survival, isolation, horror in a cave, which is something that I'm all here for. But this was not it. I did not like this book. Biggest surprise. The biggest surprise book for me was probably My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This book was published last year in 2019. And the reason why I say surprise is because this book has been so hyped online. Like, everybody's talking about it, everybody loves it. And so, you know, there's always that expectation when you go into a super hyped book that it's like, it's gotta live up to something really big. But it did. The hype lived up for it with My Dark Vanessa for me. I loved this book. I thought it was so powerful. I thought it was a point of view that was so important to hear. It is a fiction story, but I feel like it's telling the story of a very real, relatable character, and I absolutely loved My Dark Vanessa. Favorite new author. So for this, I have picked Kanai Minato. I read 2 books by her last month, and she is now like an insta-read, insta-buy author for me. I read Confessions and Penance. She writes mystery, thrillers, fiction, contemporary, mystery, thrillers, and she just writes it so well. She knows how to weave a yarn, spin a web. She just gets you so hooked in her narratives, and I can't wait to read what she's got coming out next. New favorite characters. So I feel like I have 2. One of them would be Molly Southbourne from The Murders of Molly Southbourne by Tade Thompson. She is a woman who every time she bleeds and her blood, you know, touches the ground, she develops a clone whose sole purpose is to try and murder Molly. So Molly has spent her entire life, you know, cleaning up her blood when she bleeds so that it doesn't make a clone. But if a clone does get made, she's got to murder it. So Molly is just basically murdering versions of herself before they can murder her. I thought Molly was so badass. I loved the storytelling in this. I loved the concept. And there is a sequel that I haven't read yet that I better get on. Also, in addition to Molly, I love Klein from Last Days. Klein is an ex-detective who is just a man who just wants to be retired and be left alone. He had his hand cut off in a undercover mission by the man he was following, so he has lost his hand. He's just like, I am done, I'm retiring, I'm getting out of the game, out of the business. But he gets abducted by a cult called the Brotherhood of Mutilation. He gets sucked into this cult that he doesn't want to be in, and he has to you know, use his own skills and devices to find his way out. I loved Klein. I want to see the movie of Last Days. Like, imagine the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling, if you've seen that. Like, imagine Drive, but it's with a man who is in a cult where they cut off each other's limbs. Klein is a new favorite character. A book that made you cry. I just love a good, tender cry. And so for this one, I have picked The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa. This is a beautiful story of friendship between a cat named Nana and Nana's owner, and the relationship that they have with each other, and then a journey across Japan that they take together. This is a tender, beautiful story of life, of friendship, and of loss. And you will cry. A book that made you happy. So a book that made me really happy is Sweet Bean Paste by Dorian Sukegawa. This is about a man who is depressed. He's a little bit of an alcoholic. His life has not gone the way that he had wanted it to go. He spent some time in jail, and he's just not, he hasn't found it. He hasn't found what he wants to be doing, and he has no passion in his life. But then he meets an old woman. She is a leprosy survivor, and she just has a lust for life that really, you know, lights a fire in him. And this is about him learning from a new friend, from an elder in his community, on what it means to follow your purpose, finding out what your purpose even is, and just, you know, not feeling bad about not having a lot of ambition. You being alive, you existing is enough. And this book made me feel so nice. The most beautiful book that you've bought this year. So I have said before that I don't really buy books because of their covers, but there are a few books that I have bought that coincidentally just have very beautiful covers or, you know, book constructions. The first one is a little bit awkward because I think it's beautiful, but it is Uzumaki by Junji Ito. This is a graphic novel. I just love naked hardbacks and, you know, the art on them, but it's also like quite disturbing art. I'm not even going to show you that one. But Junji Ito is a, you know, horror manga, and he illustrates his books and they are just ghastly and horrifying and disgusting and heinous, but the construction of the book is beautiful. I just love the hardback. I love the pages. I love the art. That's just disgusting, and I love it. I'm all about it. Also, I found this book in a thrift store and it is just beautiful. This is The Bone People by Carrie Hulme. And it's just got a beautiful cover that goes all the way around. The cover is an illustrated by Peppa T. Heller. This is a Maori mythology. It is about a mythological tower in the New Zealand Sea. The author is a Maori woman, and this just, I'm really excited to read a lot about Maori culture, New Zealand, and I feel like this is a little bit mythology, a little bit history, a little bit of magical realism, and this was just a really cool find from a voice and a culture that I haven't read a lot about, and I am really excited to dive into it. That's another beautiful book with deckled edges. I will admit I'm not a huge fan of deckled edges for reading, but they look beautiful. Like, do people love reading books with deckled edges? Like, I find that it's really hard for me to turn the page, but you know what? That's just me. That's just a rant. That's just shut up, Alicia. Books that you need to read this year. So all of them. I mean, I mentioned a few that I haven't read yet that I want to read. Anything that you can see here, I haven't read. This specifically is my unread bookshelf. I like to shame myself into looking at, look at what you've done and not read, Alicia. Why do you keep buying these? But I'm really excited to read these, and anything that you can see is something that I want to read. So there you have it. This is my mid-year book freakout tag. Let me know what you really liked reading. I'm really actually excited to hear your most disappointing reads of 2020 so far. So please, in the comments below, let's talk trash. So again, I really appreciate you guys for being here, for hanging out with me, for watching this video. I just love talking books with y'all. So until next time, see you, pals.